Why do you use Straumann? Because there are so many implant systems out there, both premium brands and brands that are kind of clone implants. So the simple answer for me is predictability, 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 because I have been using this implant system now for 18 years, and I'll tell you, and I've said this before, I've had a 99.8% success rate over almost 20 years, for 18 years, so using with this system. And I don't have to worry about anything really with this system from a surgical point of view or even from a restorative point of view. So I just wanted to mention that because it's important you guys understand why I choose what I do and what we'll choose today, and there's a big reason behind it. And this system has really been very predictable, besides the fact that it's really backed by research, and I'm part of the ITI, as Sam mentioned. And the ITI has always been kind of if you want, it's a non-profit organization, it's independent from Straumann, but it's where Straumann has gotten a lot of their research from. And Straumann's motto is simply doing more. And if you look at it from a customer service perspective, obviously they do a lot, and they do a lot into investing in research and new products and everything. But really, for me, I could care less if they do more or not in the customer service part. And I say that with, really, I like their customer service department, but for me what counts is that it simply works. I mean, I think they should change their slogan to "It simply works," because it does. And honestly, just a true story we have had in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, we have had some problems with their customer service reps just because they were going through a transition phase and everything. And people used to call me up just because they thought I'm on the ITI, said, hey, can you tell them that, this is not working, this customer service issue, this and that, the reps and everything. And they thought, I said, I'm not on the board of directors of Straumann. I'm just an ITI guy. And but despite all of that, despite all those things that people didn't like, you know how many people switched? 0, okay? There are so many implant companies after people who were unhappy with the customer service part of things to switch, but nobody switched because it just works. When something works in your practice, you keep it. And so I just kind of wanted to mention that before we get started. And then the other thing is, of course, I wanted to show this too. What would you want in your own mouth? And so in my mouth, I've got Straumann implants. I used to be as good looking as Darren O'Brien, but then I started falling apart a couple of years ago. And started needing implants. So this is an implant that we placed, a year and a half ago, and then now we got it restored with this EMAX screw retained crowns. And right now there's a temporary filling in there because my assistant just kind of put that in. But everything I use on a patient, I use on myself, and that's the question that you guys have to ask yourselves. This is my most recent implant. The one that you see on the right is a tissue level implant, and that one was placed about 14 years ago by Danny Boozer. He's one of the main research guys, a great friend, and that was the first ever white neck that was placed in the US. He actually brought it with him because I called him and said, hey Danny, I need an implant, and he said, oh great, I've got this prototype, I'll bring it with me. And so this was the first white neck implant that was ever placed in the US, and it was an SLA surface at that time, which was FDA approved for 6 weeks of loading, and this implant was exactly loaded at 6 weeks. Frank Higginbottom, who some of you may know, did the restorative work at that time, and Frank loaded it exactly at 6 weeks because he presented at the Academy of Osseointegration meeting, and this is 14 years later. I know a lot of you guys don't like the tissue level implants, and I don't use them myself anymore either, because I just think there are better customization options with bone level implants. But that tissue level implant, nothing has changed on it during 14 years. And that's what counts. The implant next to it was when actually, I had a bridge in that area. That's what happened. I had a bridge when I started dental school about 30 years ago. Number 19 got extracted, so I got a bridge, and then the bridge fell twice. And I always tell patients the same story. And when the bridge failed, then finally I said, I want to have an implant 14 years ago. I got an implant, but the front tooth, in the meanwhile, had a root canal and post, and you know what always happens to that, they always fracture. Actually, the best practice builder is teeth that have the root canals and post, either opposing implants or next to implants, because they will always fracture. And so that's exactly what happened. So we went ahead and took the tooth out, a friend of mine, one of my former residents, and then we came back and we placed a bone level implant. Now this is a narrow diameter 3.3 millimeter implant. This is a rock solid implant. And so you can see I have that put in my own mouth. I don't have any problems with putting that in my own mouth because this implant will not fracture. And actually the bone to implant contact has even been shown to be higher than SL Active, which is their neosurface, and it's been out for long while. SL Active is approved for 3 weeks of loading by the FDA, full loading, not just temporary loading or anything. And so now obviously I don't load implants at 3 weeks, but what that does is that it gives me the confidence that in situations like this or in situations with minimal sinus, minimal bone height to the sinus, everything, you can place that implant and you get quick integration in 3 weeks. So our patient today is this young lady here who Sam organized for us. And she obviously has a deciduous canine. And when we talked about doing this live surgery, obviously Sam immediately said yes, and I didn't expect him to. I was just kind of throwing that out there. And the second thing, he said, well, I've got the perfect case. It's a simple case. We can do it on stage, and it's great. And I said, beautiful. So this is, obviously, the patient is a nice young lady. She's healthy, which is good, so there's no significant medical history. And she has this deciduous canine that really is stable, but it kind of is ruining her smile. So it's an aesthetic issue at this point, more than a functional issue. These are the close-up views. You can see this deciduous canine and then the contralateral side. So the case looks pretty straightforward and pretty simple. Here's the occlusal views. You can see really nice, thick bone and good gingival levels, easy tooth to extract. I hope it will be easy. We'll see. Famous last word. That little pokey root there, we'll see. Hopefully that doesn't break off. But so a really nice case to do live surgery on stage, right?